Hello and welcome to this new edition of Echo Africa, the environment program co-produced by NTV in Uganda, Deutsche Welle in Germany and Channels Television right here in Nigeria. I am Chris Elems coming to you from Lagos, but I'm not alone. With me is my co-host Sandra in Uganda. Hey there, Sandra.
Hi Chris, nice to see you again, and a big hello to all our viewers from me, Sandra Twinobio here in Kampala, Uganda. It is good to have you with us again, and here's a quick look at a few of today's topics. We'll see how school kids in Togo are getting creative with trash. We'll also see what vets in South Africa are doing to help sea turtles. And white people in Spain are grappling with water scarcity. Environmental engineering is becoming an increasingly popular subject at universities around the world. And here on the show, we often see just how much countries and communities here in Africa benefit when young graduates return home and put their newly acquired knowledge into practice. Here is a really wonderful example of that from Rwanda.
Once rice has been harvested, it needs to be dried. For farmer Odase Habineza and his family, that process can be just as exhausting as the actual harvest. But it's vital. If the rice isn't dried quickly enough, it starts to go moldy and develop toxins which are carcinogenic and can even be lethal. So every day for weeks on end, they have to lay the rice out in the sun. It takes about a month to dry 5 tons of rice.
It's difficult to dry our crops with this method, especially when it rains. During the harvest, we lose a lot of time because we have to dry when the sun is shining, and it takes us many days. If we had drying machines, we could save time and dry our crops efficiently and avoid losing produce.
Many other farmers have the same problem because mold doesn't only affect rice. It's also a problem with other types of grain such as corn, also known as maize. But drying machines are expensive. Farmer Jean Sibomana can't afford to rent a machine, despite the recent good harvests.
Last year, 2020, when we harvested around 80 tons of maize, and we lost more than 30 tons because of aflatoxin, because it was heavy raining around that time. We didn't have any system just to use to dry our maize and store in an appropriate way.
Then the farmer came across young entrepreneur Thierry Shema through a report in the local newspaper. The trained environmental engineer developed a small portable drying machine. He has now built 3 such devices. He and his team bring them to the farmers and set them up on site. The idea behind it is simple.
We use on-farm waste. So it's like after threshing maize, these maize cobs, which are usually rejected and sometimes thrown away, they are the ones that we burn, and then the thermal energy generated from maize cobs, they are used for drying.
The machine emits hardly any carbon dioxide, so it's more environmentally friendly than conventional grain dryers that run on diesel. The portable devices can dry rice, corn, or beans. Not only are they easy to assemble, the service costs less than half the price of borrowing a diesel-powered dryer. The farmer pays Thierry Shema the equivalent of 180 euros to dry his 15-ton harvest. It's such a success, the company has been inundated with orders. In this harvest season, at least 60 farmers are still waiting for his team and their mobile dryers.
One of the key challenges we are facing at the moment is like we have got the demand, which is quite higher than what we can supply at the moment, and we believe that with more effort from the mentioned above institutions, government, private stakeholders, we can further harness the solution.
He has found support in the capital Kigali from a German NGO. The Vestavele startup house supports young entrepreneurs, and not just by helping them to set up a company.
We started tapping into ways in which we can support him post-incubation in terms of corporate partnership, but also linking him to different stakeholders. And through this, we saw tremendous interest from these different stakeholders, the one to work with him, the one to support him.
The startup also received funding for a new prototype. What looks a bit like a pinball machine is in fact a dryer that harnesses the power of the sun. Thanks to a special coating on the base, the air in the lower section heats up to 40 degrees Celsius, even on days when it's cool. That allows 50 kilos of corn to be dried in the top section in just 3 hours. The carbon-neutral dryer is set to hit the market in 2022.
What a great idea. Now to a totally different topic. Many of you will never have seen or heard of a goki. Hardly surprising, as it is a very rare kind of antelope. Goki is what the animal is called locally in its native Ethiopia. In English, it is known as swan's hartebeest.
A few decades ago, this subspecies was nearly hunted to extinction, but the local Oromo community banded together to ensure its survival, in part by following age-old clan traditions. Now this unique animal is bouncing back.
This swain's hartebeest spends just a brief moment resting in the shade before seeking the safety of the herd. Swain's hartebeest are found only in Ethiopia. The largest population lives in the Senkele sanctuary in the south of the country. An estimated 850 hartebeests live here. Rangers tend to the antelope's safety and well-being. Chief Warden Desta Bedaso and his team want to keep the animals from going extinct.
They are categorized as critically endangered mammals in IUCN category. So they need special attention to be conserved by the international community even so.
Poachers used to be the biggest threat, but these days it's hyenas and jackals. Young antelope are especially at risk. The rangers have their work cut out for them, and they patrol the sanctuary around the clock. In the early 1990s, there were an estimated 3,500 hartebeests here. A year later, there were about 70. Poaching had become rampant, even though the traditional governance system of the Oromo people dictates respect for nature. To put an end to poaching, clan leaders agreed on strict penalties. The rangers helped win local people over to the system.
If anyone caught poaching the hartebeest, he will be punished as he killed human being.
But penalties alone are not enough to deter poaching. The antelope can only survive because the sanctuary benefits local people. They are permitted to harvest the dried grass that the antelope no longer need. It might not look like it, but the hay is a valuable resource. It's used in thatched roofs, for example. Local communities earn the equivalent of about 180,000 euros a year from its sale.
People benefit from the resources at Senkele by cutting the grass and selling it. Now the resource is being protected. Unlike in the past, when people used to build houses in the park.
Over the years, the sanctuary has lost about a quarter of its land to farming and illegal settlement, leaving only about 58 square kilometers. That makes protecting the remaining hartebeest all the more important. When a small herd left the protected area in search of water, local people helped return the antelope to the sanctuary instead of hunting them for their meat. The sanctuary is a boon to all, both animals and people.
Working here and protecting the hartebeest has benefited me a lot. I get a salary, and I've been able to send my children to school with that salary. I have 8 children, and I've been able to send all of them to school.
Nearly 40 species of mammal live here, but St. Keleswain's hartebeest sanctuary has never drawn large numbers of tourists. And the coronavirus put tourism on hold. Chief Warden Desta Badasso believes the crisis could open the door to a new form of travel.
Nowadays, the tourist number is not as such in good numbers as compared to the location of the sanctuary. So I hope the future of the sanctuary is bright, as the worlds are focusing on the nature-based tourism.
As they wait for the visitors' return, the rangers continue to protect the animals day and night.
Waste management is a big challenge in many countries here in Africa, including Togo. And as we'll see in this week's Doing Your Bit series, education can play a big role in terms of effecting change. After all, even something as simple as an old plastic bottle can have many uses.
It's time to go in. These school kids in Togo's capital of Lomé have been looking forward to their outing to Magique Parc Écologique, a very unique education center. All of the buildings here, along with the pavement, were constructed using waste materials.
I love this place because things that I thought were useless are actually useful. I think recycling is important and everyone should do more of it. From now on, when I see trash, I'll collect it and bring it here.
In Togo, more than 2 million tons of plastic waste end up in the environment each year, according to official figures. Even though the country does have waste management centers, the recycling rate remains low. That's why raising awareness of the problem is critical.
This workshop is very creative and interesting. If your family doesn't have so much money, for instance, you can make your own pencil holder from a plastic bottle to hold your pens and pencils.
This is important because children learn that instead of throwing everything in the trash, they can turn some things into other useful objects, things that have a purpose.
But the center does more than make use of plastic bottles and rubber tires. The Magique Parc Écologique also has a biodigester. Here, young people can see how organic waste is turned into combustible biogas.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Around the globe, more than 2 billion people still lack direct access to fresh water. And even if the problem isn't especially acute in Europe yet, water scarcity is becoming an ever bigger issue there too.
Spain, for instance, is suffering severe groundwater losses due to the effects of climate change. But that's not the only reason. The interests of beverage companies are also a factor. Communities in the south of the country are worried they may soon run out of water.
They're the oldest man-made watercourses in Europe. The acequias were built by the Moors during their 800-year occupation of Spain. The irrigation system comprises 3,000 kilometers of channels. They direct water from the mountains of the Sierra Nevada onto the fields and ensure the groundwater is also replenished. Isabel Fernandez uses the acequias to water her crops. She's concerned about potential water shortages here in the Lecrine Valley. Many local farmers depend on natural groundwater for their fields, but the water table is steadily dropping. And Fernandez believes it's not just due to a lack of rain.
Thanks to systematic privatization and exploitation, we won't be able to pass on the rich resources that we inherited to our children. I see nature as a heritage that we need to guard and preserve. So I don't want a private company draining off our water and selling it. It's robbery.
Who does the water in the Lecrine Valley belong to? 10 years ago, a citizens' initiative was set up to defend water supplies in the valley. In recent months, residents have been protesting against an industrial bottling plant for mineral water that was opened despite local opposition. They say 5 million litres of water leave the plant every month in bottles.
They're taking away our groundwater. It's over-exploitation. We won't have enough water for farming in future and will no longer be self-sufficient where we eat what we produce. And we're supposed to be stopping the mass exodus from the countryside. But if they take away our water, how will we be able to live here?
But the drinks company is actually looking to expand. Sales of bottled mineral water in Spain have more than doubled over the past 20 years. At the company headquarters, we were told the concerns of local residents are unfounded. The firm insists there's plenty of water to go around and that the Spanish authorities checked everything carefully before issuing a licence. The expansion of the company's production facilities in the Lecrine Valley is due to go ahead, despite the protests.
At the end of this year, we'll install a new bottling line for 8-litre containers to meet the increased demand for that size. And we're looking to further develop the Aquadeus brand and expand it on the international market too.
The dispute here is no isolated case. Southern Spain has a total of 18 factories for mineral water. In the Sierra Nevada mountains alone, a handful of international corporations like Danone and Nestlé are competing for the natural spring water. Environmentalists fear the pressure on local water supplies will continue to increase to meet commercial demand.
In a country like Spain, where the tap water is generally very good quality and available everywhere, it's hard to justify the fact that people drink so much bottled water. And then there's all the plastic involved. The sale of water generates many, many tons of plastic waste.
And there's another problem. The Sierra Nevada has also been hit by climate change. The amount of snow on the mountain peaks is dwindling. And that means less meltwater, also for the acequias.
The general tendency is toward more arid conditions, and as climate change progresses, it's getting worse. We're already recording a steady drop in precipitation. Or sometimes we get a lot of really heavy rainfall, but then the ground can't absorb it.
Isabel Fernandez and the other activists say it's scandalous that water from their region is to be exported all the way to China and elsewhere. At the same time, official statistics suggest the Lecrine Valley actually has a shortage of water to the tune of 1.4 billion litres a year.
Right from the start, we've been calling for an environmental impact study. There's been nothing like that, not even when they built that monster over 2 streams. There's been no study of the impact from its activity.
Members of the Citizens' Initiative want the water company out of their valley. After their protest, they share a meal together. Their beverage of choice, spring water, of course. Not from a plastic bottle, but a traditional earthenware pot.
I'm sure that most of you Eco-Africa viewers are aware that sadly, a great number of plant and animal species are threatened or endangered. The causes are many, but loss of habitat, poaching and environmental pollution are among the obvious ones. conservation parks can do a lot to keep animals safe from harm, as we saw earlier in our report from Ethiopia. But what about the creatures that live in our oceans? Helping them can be a lot trickier, as we'll see in our next report from South Africa.
South Africa's coastline offers spectacular sights above and below the water. It's home to 5 of the world's 7 species of sea turtle, and they play a vital role in maintaining a balanced marine ecosystem by keeping seagrass beds and coral reefs healthy. But the reptiles are endangered. Talitha Noble is a marine biologist. She runs the Turtle Rescue and Rehabilitation Centre at Cape Town's Two Oceans Aquarium.
The biggest threats that turtles face in the ocean are ghost fishing gear, which is fishing nets that have been discarded off boats, and those will then continue to catch animals, including turtles, and those turtles will then drown in the nets. And the other thing that threatens turtles in the ocean is plastic.
Sea turtles eat crabs, algae and jellyfish, amongst other things. Unfortunately, floating pieces of plastic can look dangerously similar to food. Talitha Noble took this footage with her phone in 2019. The turtle ate and then pooped out part of a balloon. Thankfully, the little loggerhead made a full recovery. The conservationist documents every case. These bits of plastic caused a tragic death.
They float on the surface of the water, which is where the turtles drift. So as they drift, they eat this. So this was one little baby that had 121 pieces of plastic in him. He unfortunately died.
An estimated 5 trillion plastic particles are in the oceans. The first thing Noble does every morning is check on the hatchlings. All of the current patients were found stranded on beaches around Cape Town, suffering from weakness, malnutrition or injuries. This is common during the period from March to July, known as stranding season, when new hatchlings catch a current to migrate along the coast. Only 1 or 2 hatchlings in 1,000 will reach maturity. With populations in decline, the turtles need all the help they can get.
Those little turtles are rescued by a whole volunteer group. We have over 500 people in that, and brought to the aquarium. So we can have anywhere from 20 to over 200 turtles in a year. Currently, we have about 60.
One is this loggerhead, brought in with acute pneumonia. It's a fairly common condition in hatchlings with weak immune systems.
We've been treating him with antifungal treatment as well as antibiotics, and it's been working really well. So he's improving, and we're able to track that with the x-rays, but we also track it by observing how he swims, how he eats. But for now, we're really impressed, and we're crossing fingers that he's going to be better soon. Hello!
It's 11:30, lunchtime for green turtles Bob and Harry. Bob came here with a badly broken shell. Harry arrived in late 2020, weak and unable to eat. But now his appetite is healthy.
It's quite good to get a piece that will dangle like this, because otherwise you'll tend to bite your fingers, and that's why I have the gloves on. I'll show you now. There we go.
The best moments for Talitha Noble and her team are when they release turtles back into the wild.
Knowing that you've been able to have an impact and that you've been able to help the turtles is very rewarding, and knowing that they therefore have a second chance is so exciting.
Over 80% of the sea turtles treated by the Rescue and Rehabilitation Centre end up back in the ocean with a fresh chance at reproducing and sustaining this important marine population.
We've come to the end of this edition of Echo Africa. So glad you could join us. Looking forward to seeing you next week, Sandra. And of course, all you viewers out there too. Till then, I'm Chris Lems in Lagos, Nigeria.
Bye, Chris. The time has come for me to say goodbye too. But until we meet again, you can always check in with us on our social media platforms. If you liked today's program, would like to hear about it. For now, I am Sandra Twinovidio signing off from Kampala here in Uganda.